The Warriors have so much trouble finding consistency in just how they deploy a young player. Look, Steve is great at a lot of things. Player development is not one of them. The Warriors have given us an awful lot of reasons to believe over the last handful of weeks. But in the last couple of games, man, there are way too many reasons to doubt them as well, right? I mean, there's one thing that you want to be when you're playing the Golden State Warriors. Longer, taller teams are going to be a problem. Bam Adebayo should not be the best player on the court. Last night he was. The Warriors had no real physical counter for him. Looney did the best he could. Draymond came out there and gave it the old college try. I think they even slapped like Guy Santos and went and post on him for a little while. None of that really worked. And it was, unfortunately, a game in Miami where, the Heat got to feel great because they didn't just beat the Warriors. They beat the Warriors and they straight up made Jimmy Butler look like a non-factor. Like, they all got to feel really good that Jimmy can only leave town with his tail between his legs. Like, enjoy your money in your new team. But when it comes back, coming into Miami and showing us who's boss, you just got run off the court, you bitch. I'm sorry. Like, Jimmy Butler's all about that tough talk. I'm a real one. Not in Miami, he wasn't. There's a reason why there are great NBA players, and then Jimmy Butler is in the level just right underneath them.
In the regular season, agreed. Yeah.
Seasons. Jimmy's never won shit.
Dude, he took that Miami team twice to the NBA Finals. I can't ignore that. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like that.
Win them. You gotta win it. You gotta win it. If NBA Finals appearances were great, boy, wouldn't LeBron James have more respect than he gets? You know what I mean?
Fair.
If Jimmy Butler is really that let me show it to you, whip it out, dude, when it comes time to show it and whip it out, which last night was, he didn't do it.
No.
He didn't do it.
Jimmy Butler looked like
Wiggins played better than him. That pisses me off.
My ire from last night's game. Again, there's a lot to discuss here, but for me, it started with coaching. And what I mean by that is, who in their right mind thinks Jimmy Butler as your tallest player is a valid starting lineup in today's NBA, in any era's NBA, in any basketball team, on a college basketball team? How does that make sense? This is the NBA. Damon, why again? And I was blasting this on social media. I was telling people because I'm competing with other post-game shows, and I was guaranteeing that this was going to be the only program who brings up the obvious fallacy in last night's game, which was that starting lineup. Your thoughts, man, because it made no damn sense and it drew my ire, dude. I don't get it.
Here's the thing. What choice does he have, though?
What?
It's not like Steve Kerr can cobble together the big lineup that doesn't really even exist on his own team. It's one thing to go to a small lineup because in the moment it's your best, most efficient way to go about winning a game. It's another thing to design a team specifically around the concept of all we have is a small lineup. And that's where the Warriors, I think, are a little offensive sometimes in the way that they built their team. It seems like they have embraced small to the detriment of being able to counter with big. And that's just a little tough. That's a little tough.
But here's the thing, and there was a lot of little things besides the fact that they do. First of all, I've never hated the concept of Quinton Post as your starting center. What has he done to deserve this punishment of bench time instead of starting consistently, developing in the process? I don't get that. And if you're going to tell me, well, Steve Kerr's won 4 championships, then explain how last night did not work and justify that.
Look, Steve Kerr won 4 championships because at no point in time in any of those championships was he really relying on the contribution of young players. Look, Steve is great at a lot of things.
Yes.
Player development of young rosters on his team is not one of them. It's just, It isn't. And you could say that the Warriors, maybe even more than any player's shortcomings, inabilities, have done more to stunt their own player development than the players have. I'm not at these practices. I'm not watching what's going on, but it is really weird that the Warriors have so much trouble finding consistency in just how they deploy a young player, much less consistency of the player once they get deployed, right? There's two different things here. The minutes allocated to you and then what you do with those minutes.
Right.
And it doesn't seem that what you do with those minutes plays any factor in how those minutes are allocated to you. And that's the real scratching of the head with the Warriors.
With Steve Kerr, I feel like I've hopefully figured it out. So much of this is just coming to assumptions. And because, like you're rarely going to get any of these individuals being truly genuine or honest about what goes behind the decision-making. Maybe Steve Kerr was completely honest in saying he relies on his gut. He's intuitive, right? But when it comes to developing players, I let me know if you agree that I figured it out in terms of the failure to properly develop young talent. He just doesn't have the patience for it. And that's an old school coaching mentality. And I get it. Typically when you have a veteran team, if a player is underperforming, you yank them and you look down the bench and say, who's next? But that doesn't work with development. And again, the 2022 season, I understood it for obvious reasons. They won a championship. But 2023, 2024, even this season, you have the leeway to experiment and back off a bit and let these players play. It's not hurting you as much as Steve Kerr thinks it does, but in these little moments, it frustrates him. He yanks them, and he makes these decisions based on how you would treat veterans and not rookies and young players. Your thoughts?
The whole league has basically wiped its hand in the general direction of 30 games on any schedule and just said, these don't matter.
You're right.
So in those games that just don't matter,
you're right.
Play the shit out of the guys who you're trying to figure out what you got. That to me, in the games that really just, it's early in the year, no one's out here playing. We're past opening week, so everybody's kind of turning their attention back to football. And there are 30 games of indifference built into every season. And I wish that those games of indifference would be used a little bit more valuably by the Warriors, who got a whole bunch of players they're still trying to figure out in real time.
100% agree with you. But it wasn't just that. Like, if it was just the starting lineup last night, I would have probably been more reserved in my reaction to the coaching. And again, I haven't criticized Kerr ever since pretty much the Jimmy Butler trade. I feel like they've been doing the right things, but last night was egregious. Besides the starting lineup, like Kevon Looney, for example, you mentioned him as being relatively ineffective and inconsequential, and rightfully so, but he wasn't hurting the team either. And Kevon Looney is a player you play based on matchups. What I mean by that is, if the opponent has a traditional center who's a very effective, efficient, low post scorer, Kevon Looney gets exposed, man. Like, he can't defend elite centers with multiple skill sets offensively. The Nikola Jokic's, for example, Karl Anthony Towns, he's borderline worthless. But a team like Miami, where you're relying on guys like Bam Adebayo, Ware, who don't have these offensive skill sets dialed in. They're there more for athleticism, defense. Ware might become that someday. He's not there yet. Right, and to not see Looney play in this game with that team that they're playing against until late second quarter, that's when we first saw Kevon Looney play in this game. Like, little things like that. Moses Moody was 0 of 9 shooting from three. 0 of 9. That is a terrible statistic, and that really happened. There should have been a conversation there. Dude, shooters shoot. I agree. Moses Moody, though, has not achieved that level of grace.
He ain't quite
and if you're going to treat youngsters in a way where if they're playing bad, switch it up. Where was the switch up there? I don't see consistency with the methodology. There's just a lot that frustrated me in last night's game, and I'll shut up now.
And Cyrus, no. I mean, you're just let it out. You're right about everything. It does bother me. So first of all, the entire game does need to be graded on. Steph wasn't there, and the curve that comes with that, and giving a longer leash to role players because of that. And that is in play. Another thing that's in play is when you're 0 for 8 from downtown, don't shoot that 9th three until you've gone and made a bucket. Get to the rim. Like, I hate that the Warriors' backup plan for we've missed a lot of threes is always, well, we need to shoot more threes then.
Great call.
I brought that up as well. That's the backup plan. Plan B is C Plan A. Thanks for watching. Tune into the Damon Bruce Show live on YouTube every weekday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific.